I'm
I'm not sure how formal we'll get, but I'm not
don't
sure
have
how
it covered
formal
from
we
that.
ever are actually,
We're not.
or not. Go ahead, Amy.
I actually, no, I was just going to point out, just because in the previous work, so a lot of these affinity groups stemmed from the work that was happening. When we started in our role, we really were doing like what we called learning convenings. So it was introducing a lot of the frameworks that we have to assist you guys in doing the work that you do in your organizations. But I was going to mention to Jasmine, especially, there was one that we really did around TPPI. We had Michelle as kind of a guest speaker. We had a couple of speakers, but it was really, so often folks in the community are doing work in an action planning process where they're like, they have the data, they're disaggregating the data, they're looking at what are really the root causes, and then they're moving into like authentic engagement. And so, so we did, if you want to go, I'll forward it to you. I'll find the link and forward it to you. But we did really, Michelle had been doing that with TPPI, and I think Calvin at the library was doing that with the Decrim of Poverty group. So it was just kind of a great example of like how kind of critical each step is. So like you identify your problem, and they kind of were like, teens weren't using the sexual health clinic at the health department, and it was kind of diving into why weren't they doing that. And as adults, we were sitting around the table saying, well, it's because of A, B, and C, like making so many assumptions about what they were experiencing and doing. And we kind of use that example of like, really, I mean, at the center of everything we're doing is getting feedback and hearing and, like connecting with them. And it kind of all ties into that building trust. Like once relationships are built, you're really going to hear authentic feedback about the whys of what's going on, and you're going to get to that deeper root causes. So it was just a great example of kind of, we sat and Michelle, we thought about, oh, well, it's the building, or they don't know the directions, or, made all these assumptions as, not experiencing the problem. And she really engaged with the teens and got their feedback, and they were like, no, it's because of this. And, once that relationship was built, once that trust became so critical, they kind of got in and was like, no, it's this, and this. And then the teens were part of building the solutions. We always say, like, you really have to dig deep into what are the root causes, and then have those folks that are closest to that problem be part of the solution, right? They know what they need. We say that so often. So so that was just, when I kind of looking at the audience, it struck me as like, you guys, and I know building trust is so critical in the work that you're doing, especially for teens, because so often they're like kind of, very weary to have that trusting relationship with, especially with adults who make assumptions about their behaviors. And I've seen just over the many years, even with most teens don't and TPPI, how much once you get that trust built and you're hearing from them, it's like amazing the way they'll open up, and then you can start to address some of the issues. But I'm babbling, so I apologize. But it's like,
no, it's right. You're right. Definitely. I agree with you strongly.
how about any experiences you guys have encountered kind of just in what you're beginning with that whole trust piece?
Well, I think our newest endeavor has been, we actually made a connection with the Girl Scouts here in town. So they have kind of like right in between that preteen kind of age. And we were able to do a puberty lesson with them. And from there, the moms connected us, or the moms of the girls connected us with a group that meets once a month called MOPS. So I can't remember what the acronym stands for, but more or less they're mothers.
I've been to that group too.
Yeah, right. So we were completely unaware of those kinds of groups of like mothers meeting together. So we're actually going there next month, and we're going to kind of present our programs to them, and also just kind of use them as a base for parent education, because that's our biggest struggle, getting those parents to come and to be engaged. And it's great if you can just go to a place where there's a bunch of parents assembled, and that they would be willing to listen, incentivize, or even just have some kind of guest speaker. So that's our newest connection, and I'm hoping to build trust, and then from there they tell their friends, and so forth and so forth. Because I think we're really struggling with the connection with the parents.
Yeah.
So what have you guys done or have done in order to like be to create that connection with parents in Jackson? Have you had any successes? What hasn't worked?
Yeah,
So
not a whole lot of parent stuff. It's mostly just getting teachers to communicate and trust and get us in there and presenting and stuff. So I mean, it's a rebuilding year for most teams, though, for sure. And then, like, I mean, we were in almost, I think, 10 schools pre-COVID, and now I'm in 5. So
Take the 5, man.
I'll take 5.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's great.
But how active, how regular they are, I don't know, but 5 I'll take. I'm actually meeting with Jay High this afternoon, so hopefully get them back on track. But yeah, it's a struggle, and then also I think teachers are like, well, let's just do it for them. Like, we'll skip the whole meeting. Let's just have it's alcohol and drug facts week next week. Let's just do it for them. You come in. She wants me to come in and basically do the morning announcements. And what I'm going to tell her is, I'm not doing morning announcements. The kids are doing morning announcements. Like, this is supposed to be youth led. They're not going to listen to me top down conversation. It has to be from the students, and
Yeah, well, it takes more time to do it that way. It takes more effort, right?
Energy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And engaging with them and getting, and like that we just talked about, it's like they need to decide what will affect them. Like, if you talk at them with your slogan or whatever we have, as middle-aged or young, very young women sat around a table and decided what they need. But yeah, like, find out from them what will strike them. What kind of facts like surprise you, and what kind of tone, and how do you like to receive the messaging? And like, it's just super smart to push back on that, Rebecca, because you going in and talking at them is not going to be effective.
No,
it'll check off the box, which so often we just want to do in our jobs. Like, oh yeah, no, I did that prevention week, and it's like, but did you do it in a way that is effective? So
yeah.
Well, and when I worked, so one of my previous roles, I worked with MSU students who were in or who had just left the foster care system, and I had a great lesson in building trust, because I thought that I would be able to, as a well-intended person, be able to waltz right in and like tell them things that I knew best, blah, blah, blah. And of course, trust takes time, and it feels like a lot of times, especially in like programs, or like we have to meet certain things by certain times and like all these outcomes, and we have like timelines. And honestly, Amy and I have talked about this too, around like building trust in the community, just us, like building relationships and trust in the community. Like, if you don't know me, do you know that I actually have the best intentions for you in your work? Or like, do you trust me as a person? And COVID did not help with building relationships, as you said too. And so it almost feels like, I can't speak to your work, but it almost feels like we got like either halted or pushed backwards, right, on the work that was happening. And so can we have an asterisk on all of our desired outcomes that said, like, actually, we thought we were going to be here, but we need time. It's like, to have authentic relationships, which I think is worth it, but not all funders agree that, like, sure, we'll give you a couple extra years to build authentic relationships.
Yeah, it's a struggle. I mean, and I'm also on the Pride board, so we were trying to do some support groups and things like that, and getting that, talk about building trust in a support group, like a couple of the first ones, no one's talking. Why isn't anyone talking? Build relationships, right? And then we're going to come out and build their whole guts on day one.
It takes vulnerability, and that's a hard thing, especially when you're a population that has not been served well by our systems. So.
No, Rebecca, that is the I mean, I'm like fairly familiar with it, but when you say you're on the Pride board, you're talking about the meetings. They're young people, right? Students that are not speaking up, or are they adults?
Both. So I'm on the board of directors with Russ, and I think you know Russ.
Yeah. That's what in my mind, I had that group pictured when you said that.
Yeah. So and then I've been on the programming committee and what I call the GSA squad. So
the official term for it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So making sure the GSAs in the schools are, getting the support they need, or if you want to start a GSA, Gay Straight Alliance. Well, actually, it's now Gender Sexuality Alliance.
Oh, it's about time they changed that.
Yes. So,
Interesting. Okay.
yeah. So, yeah, so kind of helping those get started, or if they're not, they need help in some way. So, yeah, but in the programming, we want to do an adult support group, a youth support group, and a parent support group. And we kind of tried to launch them all at once. Not helpful. The parent one is going great though. I have Stacia Mulligan from Family Service Children's Aid leading it, and she's great at parent groups. So yeah, monthly at the library and doing great. The other ones, it's a struggle bus. So
I feel
Why
like we ride a
is
lot of
it,
those buses.
yeah, why is it a struggle to gather them? Why is it what part
yeah,
about
I
it?
mean, with the youth one, and the other thing is partnership. I don't want to do it all, right? So the first one was going to be the adult one was going to be Lifeways, and the Center for Family Health was going to do the youth one. Adult, we did kind of hybrid, and it was just really spotty. And this is the one where no one's talking. Of course, no one's talking. This is meeting 1 and 2, and so it just kind of tapered off, which was kind of sad. So not sure where that's going to go. And then the youth one is Center for Family Health, Zoom, which I know kids are zoomed out. And then also in their promotional materials, and I'm just like, just let me do it, but I know I'll make the flyer. It says call to get the Zoom link. And I'm like, no teenager is going to call to get the Zoom link.
No adult's gonna do that.
They can't even call for a pizza. Are you kidding? They're not going to call for a Zoom.
Right. Right, exactly. So yeah, kind of struggling. And like the guy that's leading it, Nate, is understands, but it's the people above that are like, well, what if we get Zoom bombed? What if?
Yeah, you want to keep some
Right.
confidentiality, and you want to make sure that they're actual. I mean, and that's a sensitive thing, because you don't want Zoom bombs, and you don't want people that are getting in for the wrong reasons. So you kind of want to vet your audience, and yet you can't really vet your audience when you're trying to grab people.
I feel like people have had to have a solution or figured this out by now.
Yes.
Or maybe a different platform,
There's a link where you can, through Zoom, that you can give your email address and sign up beforehand. There's also just make sure you have a waiting room, make sure you know how to kick someone out if they do get in, like, because I have been Zoom bombed.
Oh my gosh.
In a suicide prevention meeting.
Oh
no. Lord.
Yeah. And they came in with like a recorded message of y'all should kill yourself. Yeah, that was scary.
My.
I did not have a waiting room, and I kept trying to kick them out, and they kept coming back in, and I was like, I'm gonna recreate the link, and I just closed it and restarted. But that was scary. I mean, it wasn't necessarily everyone with that personal experience, and they were professionals, but
still the language and the topic and all of it.
Yeah, that was stressful.
Oh gosh. But like lesson learned also on like how I will host meetings or oh my gosh. People are wild. It's probably not even a person. It's probably just a bot.
Crazy. Jasmine, I like the way you talked about like how are you engaging with parents. You mentioned that we talk a lot about meeting folks where they're at, both like emotionally or in their like life also, but even physically, location wise. So I love the fact that you're going out to the MOP group because I think that, I mean, you've got a group convened already. And so are you going to go out with the Talk Early, Talk Often program or?
Well, I don't know if I said this last time, I'm not sure, but I can't even get my words together.
It's early for me.
Still early. I actually reached out to the Atlas Cosmetology School. I think they're on the other side of town, but they're willing to kind of do a project with us. So they're willing to kind of sponsor a couple free pedicures and manicures and facials. So we're going to have Barb Fliss. She does Talk Early, Talk Often, but she also does a new program. I think it's like social emotional learning parenting. So that one's kind of a little bit shorter than Talk Early, Talk Often. So we're kind of creating like a Mother's Day event, which the ladies will come and eat and be pampered and then also get that kind of education. So hopefully encourage them to want to come. And so I'm going to advertise it to the community, but I wanted to specifically start with the MOPS group. So that's something I'm going to kind of introduce to them. as one of our services, I guess, for that kind of education for parenting. But yeah,
I
I
love
think,
it. Super smart, kind of just trying to incent them and
yeah,
hopefully you'll get feedback in the MOPS group as to what would engage them, right? Like,
exactly,
so
exactly.
use
That's
that.
what
I
I
love
mean.
that you're starting with a smaller audience and then asking like, what would make you want to come out for a Mother's Day event? Like, what types of
Exactly.
things do we want to have and what kind of timing is good for moms and, what location makes sense? And yeah, that's awesome. I mean, let them be part of building it. That's great.
Yeah, I
I love
feel
it.
like it's not that what we're trying to, all of us, it's not that what we're trying to deliver is not great, because I think all of the programs and educations that we're trying to put out there have substance. They will help the community. They will improve our parents' parenting style and thoughts and how they treat our children. It's just like getting them to listen. So I think we have to take a different approach and kind of be like, okay, realistically, as an adult or a parent, 7 o'clock on the afternoon, I don't want to come out and listen to timeshare like presentation when I have to go home
Yeah,
and dress my
right.
kids for bed and you know.
Yeah.
So you got to make, we got to try something different. So hopefully this will work. And I'm hoping to create an every year Mother's Day kind of thing, create those lasting partnerships so it's always expected.
That's awesome.
Well, I love that. And I love that you said that too, because we talk about this all the time. And honestly, Rebecca was saying that too. Like, no one, like, if you're in the schools giving morning announcements, whatever, like, the message is great. We're not arguing with the message or the education. It's the delivery or it's how people are listening. And so if we have data to show that young people are actually not going to listen as much to adults as they are to their peers, then let's change the method of delivery so that so they're listening, right? And also all of the things that go into that, because surely building trust is a thing. If there is a young person, there's a student athlete who's well respected and people trust him and blah blah blah, like, let's give the message to him or her or whatever, right? And like, and use the methods where people will listen, or I don't know, hear the message. Like you said, like, if they're not listening, then why are they not? Is it because it is a wrong time of day? Is it because they're hearing from the wrong person, or some person swooped in with all the information and presented it in a way that sounded, elitist, or I don't know, whatever the reasons are, like, how do we change it?
Yeah.
Right.
And Jasmine, all of the moms, is that group in person?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So they meet at a church. I can't remember the name. I wrote it down, but they meet
Yeah,
at a church.
Emmanuel Lutheran, I believe.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, near the Walmart. So I haven't gone yet. So April next month will be our
Mhm.
first time going. So hopefully, I would love to be able to go and then introduce our services, and then maybe even talk with the directors to see if, like, going forward every month, a different one of us could come in there and talk with them about what we can do, what we do in the community, how we could be,
Mhm.
so it may be an opportunity for parent education all around for everybody to just drop
Yeah.
in there and keep putting a seed in their ear. So I'm hoping good things.
Have you
Yeah,
worked
I
with,
went in.
oh, sorry, go ahead, Rebecca.
I was just gonna say I went in with stress and coping skills, and from what I remember, they were younger mothers. Like, I think it's
Okay.
students. So, but I'm sure they have a range of children as well. Not everyone's. So,
I presented
but
years ago for Safe Sleep. I did a Safe Sleep presentation like
yeah.
Okay.
So I
10
think they're
years ago.
younger
Yeah.
mothers,
Yeah.
but yeah, they love the stress and coping skills, of course, being younger mothers.
Mhm.
That's great. Jasmine, have you worked with Barb Fliss before?
No, this will be my first time. So I know she always does talk early, talk often for us, but this is my first time to work with her. But I heard she's great.
Yeah, Amy, you're nodding your head. So when I worked at the state, my previous work, I worked at the Department of Education in a large grant around mental health in schools, and Barb was a part of our. Then we were even changing the language, like parent engagement, and I still prefer family or whatever engagement. But she was like our person at the state level as our consultant on our team for like school culture and climate, and she is a delightful person. I worked with her for pretty closely for like 6 years. And then I know Janelle ended up, I don't know if that was the connection, like how that happened, but Janelle at the intermediate school district was our contact person. And she even after the grant ended, she contracted with Barb to like continue working in the community. So I love that.
Well, I think Janelle's early days were with Michelle doing Talk Early Talk Up.
Oh,
and that's
yeah.
probably how, yeah. So
You're
that's
probably right.
They
Yeah,
shared an office. So yeah,
that's so funny.
good stuff.
Where else?
Any other?
Where should we
I was
move?
just going to talk about barriers and building trust and all that. Do you want to look at any slide or any of the Padlet stuff, or are we?
I've taken some notes,
Okay, good.
a little bit just on what people have been mentioning as successes or statuses or, you know, really official notes. I can share it if you want, or we can.
Well, that's all right. I was just kind of thinking through some of the other conversations we've had around building trust. And it's so funny too, because like Adam was always talking about going into community. And we've talked about this many times about COVID and how that really is a difficult thing. It's hard to build a relationship with someone that you don't have their face and they're not showing up in your area. So Adam's big thing, Adam Grant, was always like getting to community events and showing up as a person for that event, not
Oh,
with
yeah.
an agenda and the clipboard, and you know what I mean? And that was so critical for relationship building. And it's
Mhm.
been so hard, you know, with being in lockdown. You know, I think that's a challenge that we've all been to. Like I'm sure Rebecca, once you get to the school and meet with the kids, it's a whole different thing. It's but
Yeah.
getting there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the toughest thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, I pulled up just like what we had talked about prior, and you already mentioned a big part of it was talking about both Adam and Angela talking about getting in the community to let them know they're there, scheduling meetings with people to build relationships, establishing credibility, which also comes with time and also goes hand in hand with trust too. So yeah, I'm just kind of looking here. I can.
Yeah, we're gonna miss Adam. He's in Lansing. So
I know. He was gonna come
Oh,
today.
I thought he was Ypsilanti. I thought.
oh, maybe.
Either
I
way,
don't know.
no, he
Yeah.
just emailed and said he wished he could attend, but that he had another
Yeah.
meeting. But he's such a
Mm.
great cheerleader for
He really is.
our work too, and like authentic trust building and well, I'm happy to kind of adjust and I don't even know that we need to pull up any slides. Amy, what do you think? Do you want to end
No,
with
I was
some,
just
or are you just content?
no, I was just thinking of other ways that people have talked about both things that they've encountered around relationship and trust building. Um, and I think we've touched a little bit depending on who has come to these events. So it's not only just building trust between you and the folks that you're working with, but building trust between different organizations. You know what I mean? Between like community services and things like that. So we've framed the goal of this is building trust with community members and then building trust between community members and providers and things like that. So I think there's so many aspects to look at when you're trying to kind of move the work forward and really look at system change, that it's not just like building trust with the teens or the groups, but I'm sure like even Rebecca and Jasmine, when your work, it's building trust with administrators and getting them to like value the work that you do and getting into the schools. And so
Yeah.
it's just so multifaceted the way that, you know, it's like you might have a great program and the kids might love it, but then you've got administrators that say, no, we can't dedicate any more of our PE or health class toward this or things like that. Have you had any
Oh, yeah.
breakthroughs or barriers you guys have encountered in that regard?
I do remember Emma telling me a couple that schools would say, oh, we don't have that problem in our schools. Administrators would say that. There are no drugs in the high school or middle school. And I was like, sure. I think someone's in denial.
No substance use, no sexual activity at our school.
No, that doesn't happen.
They're all perfect.
So that kind of like denial or, you know, I mean, and the competitive, you know, nature of schools, we didn't have, you know, charters, you know, all that. So, you know,
how
you're
so
like,
how have
data says otherwise.
Yes, right. Yes. Thank God for the MiFi.
Yeah, exactly.
you can't, if I recall, you can't break MiFi down by school, correct? Just district?
You can, but you have to be the administrator.
You have to be a level
school.
5. Yeah. I remember this from my old. Yeah. So like county level data is public, and then school administrators actually can look at school disaggregated data, but they don't want to talk about it
No.
a lot
Yeah, because
they're afraid of data, which is too bad. It's because it's just a
Yeah.
story. You just have to then say, oh, look at our school. Here's the story. And now what do we do about it?
Yeah, I think so I went in and administered a couple of the MiFis this year because they're struggling with that. So one of the schools was like, when she introduced me, she was like, we do use this data. We looked the last time at the not feeling connected to adults in your school. And so that is what we did with it used to be called homeroom. I don't know what it's called now, but anyways, and that you kept your homeroom teacher all 4 years so that you
yeah.
felt connected to that adult. And
Was
I
that
was
in
like,
Northwest?
yes.
Yes, and that was actually another program that we did in one of our learning convenience. We had Scott Buechler on, who was talking
Yeah.
about how from the MiFi data. So it's so funny because people are doing all of the system change work,
Yeah.
but they can't label it the way our minds think,
Yeah.
our crazy mind. Or
Yeah.
couldn't say that word. Mixed up minds.
Yeah. But yeah, I was like, good for you actually using the data.
But that is a mindset shift, right? Because then we come
Mhm.
back it's to your point, Rebecca, like when I used to work with schools a lot, and it's just it's not just schools, but that was my lens of like working in different communities. And often depends on who is in leadership and what kind of person that person is, right? Because like to look at and like schools are competing for things, for scores and money and blah blah blah, so they're afraid to say things like either a dropout rate or a school discipline rate or a mental health rate or a sexual activity rate. And it's just we spent years, part of my work was working with the community mental health and schools in the communities and trying to gather community teams to talk about data and to like, can you see these numbers and just sit with them for a minute and what do they tell you and what do you think about this and what can we do? And then they ended up owning it, right? But it took so long to do that because you have to change the mindset of, I'm not saying you man in charge are responsible for all of these things, but like there's an onus on you as a leader to like
To change the way you're delivering systems. And they don't,
yeah.
that's the hardest thing, is that vulnerable piece, because people in power positions usually have a facade of, I've got everything together and I don't need to change. And so having that vulnerability of, as an organizational leader, to say, we are doing our best with what we have, but we could do better if we really understood what the problem was. You know what I mean? And it's a tough spot to be in, because you want to be your organization's biggest cheerleader. If I work for an organization, I'd be like, no, we are such a great organization, which is true. But then you have to, like, the data presents itself, you have to like disaggregate it. Really, we talk about that, like break it down to really what population isn't being served by this, and then change the way you're doing it. But that's something we get into, because I give them credit. You're supposed to pump up your organization, but without that vulnerability piece or the acknowledgement of that we can do better, tough.
I think, and again, my lens, I think Northwest does a great job of that. And Scott does a great job of that. And their team does, because they'll say they have incredible things they can talk about. And he'll also come to our meetings or his staff people and say, actually, when we looked at our data, we found that 25% of the students were hitting early warning signs, and we knew we needed to do something. I'm like, there's nothing shamey in that. Like it's just like, here's a story. And we knew that, like, in order to, even if your goal is just better numbers, so then you can whatever, like, I like to think that people actually value humans. Like, that's where I lead, like, oh my gosh, let's support humans better. Right. But like,
Checking off boxes in their workday.
Even if
No.
your goal is just to say that we increased the amount of young people that were in services or whatever, you have to start somewhere. You have to own your beginning point or middle point or wherever you are. And that's the part that's so tough for me, because it's the honest part and it's the vulnerable. And to me, if you're owning your data and coming together in an authentic way, it's only going to get better. It's like, that is the only option, is that, like, together we're going to move forward.
But it might require change.
There we go.
How much people like change.
That you bring up a good point.
It's that growth mindset, right?
Which is not, and a lot of people just want to stay. They want to like
Yeah.
not ruffle feathers. They,
Mhm.
I don't want to
Because
say
it
they're
creates more work.
content,
It's
but
hard work.
yes.
It's
I
hard
mean,
work.
it is, you know, emotional work. You know,
Mhm.
it's hard to be vulnerable and to see what, and then to dig into like what folks are actually experiencing. It's it's cringy sometimes, you know,
Yeah.
but until you get into that cringy spot, you're not going to really make a big effort to try to make changes.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, we're talking about that with the community health assessment data, not community health, the community assessment data used to be health,
Mhm.
but just how once that data comes back, how
Mhm.
are we going to use it to motivate folks to make change? And that's going to be the most difficult thing because you'll see glaring disparities in our community
Yeah.
and huge disparate outcomes for
Mhm.
very particular populations. And how are we going to get folks to see that as their problem? You know,
Yeah.
like that they have to make changes in their
And be-
organizations or in
Well,
their,
it's all of us, right?
yeah,
And it's like their problem, but like if you believe that it
Mm.
takes a community and all of us to holistically support
100%.
everyone, then
Yeah.
I own that
It is
data
my
too,
problem too.
right?
100%. I
Yeah.
don't mean there, but I mean
No,
like
I know, but like not everyone has that
organizational
mindset.
responsibility.
Right.
Like you
Right.
can't just keep doing status quo when you're seeing these disparate outcomes. Like you're not servicing everybody in a way that regards them as equal humans. You know what I mean? Like I don't know, it'll be interesting, but it's going to be so much in the delivery and having them own it, you know, having all of us own it. But
Mhm.
yeah,
And I think when you're presenting it, it's a combination of data and personal stories, and sometimes
yes,
those are combined. But
I
because
love that,
people are
Rebecca.
motivated by both, I think.
You're right. And because people are also different. I remember this lesson as well. Because
Yeah.
as a social worker, I like the warm, fuzzy stories, right? But also there are
Yes.
people who are like, no, I need a tangible, give me numbers. And so like
Yeah.
the pairing them together.
Mhm. Yep. So I had Toastmasters last night, and we themed it around National Social Work Day.
Oh,
Is that when is
nice.
that? Is that
I guess yesterday. Or,
Oh,
Oh, I missed it.
not-
Happy
I'm
National
not a-
I thought it
Social
was a
Workers.
week.
I should have been off and paid, right?
Right.
Isn't
Exactly.
that how that works?
Well, I try that every day. It doesn't work so well.
Damn it. Damn it.
But yeah, I had table topics, so I had to come up with questions around that theme, and so
Was
I
one
talked-
around warm and fuzzy data.
yes, it was. It was how would you change the world kind of things.
No, it's
Oh,
just an easy question. Just
I warned them they were going to be difficult this time, and they stopped me right before I got to like Ukraine level conversations.
yeah, good call. I've been doing that a lot lately too. Of like sphere of influence and like, yeah,
what do you really have the ability to change? Yep.
Mhm.
that's what was your response? Did you have a response?
No, so I was asking the questions. That's why it's good to
Oh,
be the
that's
top
perfect.
master.
You didn't have to come up with one.
No,
Mhm.
but I talked about macro versus micro.
Like it. I like it.
Yeah.
I'm a macro person. I don't know if you
I'm
knew
a
that.
macro person,
Yes, yes.
so yeah. So I talked about like what system would you change?
It's a good
What's the most
question.
Oh.
important American system to change?
Oh, dang.
They changed it. They bridged, if you will, onto actually the micro side of things. Is they went through the adoption process and working with a social worker in there, and
Wow.
so they flipped it,
Yeah.
but in their response. But I thought it was a good question. And what else did I ask? I don't remember. It was good stuff though. Oh, but one of them I
That's
didn't
cool.
get to ask was about homelessness and how do you solve the not in my backyard stuff.
Oh, God.
Oh.
No, these are the
Wow,
messy questions because
Yeah, I love it.
yeah, you're not messing around with your questions.
I know.
It's all I feel like all of those questions, the answer is you have to shift mindsets, right?
Mhm.
Because now we come back to this place around not in my backyard, and it's like, well, how are people viewing this problem, and how are they
Mhm.
viewing like people in general, and what are they valuing? So my answer, Rebecca, if you were to
There we
ask
go.
me, as I would, and it's not changing a system, but I feel like you have to, if I could like change one thing, I feel like one thing that would alter so many things would be forcing empathy on for people, because I feel like
How do you do
peop-
that though?
Exactly. You
It's
can't.
like an
No,
impossibility.
you have,
That's
it's a
kind of
change of, it's a change of
yeah.
mindset, right? But like, there's a piece in there, and a lot of people, either you have a community mindset and like my actions, I want to make sure they better the community for all,
Mhm.
or my actions are good for me and my family right now, kind of,
Yeah.
right? And I feel like that's a huge divide. And
Yeah.
so, like I can make a great change in this affinity group, but like when you start like moving out, then it gets messy. And
Well, especially since we're in our living rooms with our families at this point, some of us, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's not, you're not out of sight, out of mind, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, it's not my
Yep.
problem. You know, I've got
Mhm.
enough problems. Tough.
Yeah. And then when you
Very.
get to substance use stuff, not in my back, it's in your backyard, please.
Oh,
yeah.
not my kids.
Not my kids, not my
Yeah.
neighborhood.
And this, and I mean, and some of my previous work was around stigma, of course, when you talk about like mental health, and we did substance use hand in hand and the stigma around it. And I'm sure you experience the same thing, but to me, again, it's this mindset piece around, well, I don't want these drug users near me disrupting my perfect family life that maybe is not exactly perfect. But
Check your son's
instead of,
backpack before you do that.
right,
Mhm.
but also like understanding the root cause of this and understanding that actually substance use is like a coping mechanism. It's not a great one, right? But
No.
like it's because this person, I'm gonna jump and say trauma. Like I probably shouldn't assign
Basis.
trauma to people,
Yeah.
but, you know, right?
No, but I
Yeah.
mean, it's
Like,
there and it's likely to
exactly.
what
So like,
sparked it.
can we hold both? I would like to be safe.
Mhm.
I would like all of us to be safe. And also I would like to offer compassion and empathy and support this person and this community. Like, how do we do it together? Like, how do we do
Yeah.
both, you know? So that, I love those messy conversations though, which is
Mhm.
probably why I'm in the
You're-
macro world. Yes.
There you go. Yeah.
Anything
So-
else we should cover before we wrap up? I know we had some slides, but they didn't really feel super like pertinent today. I loved hearing more about both your work and really hearing a lot about all the things you're doing, Rebecca. I think that's really cool.
Are there supports that you guys would like to see moving forward? Like, do you get to spots in your work where you feel like you get stuck or could use like technical assistance and kind of moving through things or looking at system scans or ways to engage, or we're always loving to hear from folks as to how we can best support.
Hmm. I think that one I'll have to think about. It's hard
Think
to
on
hit
it. Yeah.
those kind of critiques on the fly, but if I come
Yeah.
up with anything, I will surely let you know.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we'll send out this survey after and if there's stuff like, you know, a lot of times I can't stand doing those surveys, but
Mhm.
if you do think on it, feel free to put it in there or just shoot us an email and be like, hey, for next month, can we really like, I feel like there's buzz talk around town about how we're stuck with this particular thing, because we'd love to like, I mean, it's a different group every time we come, but if we're hearing that there are murmurs of this, that folks are experiencing this, like even in return to work type things or how to build trust with their coworkers, whatever it might be. But just keep us like aware of kind of things that you're seeing or encountering, because we'll kind of try to, you know,
Yeah.
touch on things, or we can even bring tools to the next meeting, you know, if there's something like, you know, that might help in engagement or in system scans, or what are we looking at when we've got a problem? What type of systems do we need to look to affect or whatever?
Mhm.
We're here to help.
we also
so.
have a, I'm not sure if either of you are on it. Jasmine, you might be, but we have, oh, you are, because we talked about this, the recurring calendar meeting. So we meet, like the same, whatever, third Wednesday of every month. And we always offer, like, if you want to be on our recurring calendar invite, so that it's just on your calendar, we're happy to put you on it, but also no
I
pressure.
think somebody did that already for me.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think
I'm not
after we
on it.
figured it out, yes. So I think
Yeah, I think
you're
I did.
on it, but
Mhm.
I'm not, so add me.
Please,
Add
Because
you?
I get
Okay.
it, I get it the day before and I'm like, oh, do I have time to do that?
Yeah. Yeah, because we
We'll add
send
you to it.
out like in the e-newsletter, but like, you know, how much do people actually open that and all of that?
Yeah.
So happy to put you on the recurring,
Mhm.
and that
Yeah,
way it'll
for
give
both
us a
this
little
and
heads
the
up.
inequitable one.
Great.
Sarah,
Okay, we'll put you to both.
Sarah, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I've been trying to catch my director all day and she's in the office, so I have to go out.
No
It's
worries.
Yeah.
a pleasure. So thank
Yeah,
it was great seeing you
likewise.
again, Jasmine.
We'll see you soon, Jasmine.
We'll
Yeah,
see
yeah,
ya.
thank you.
Yeah, but that's a great, unless you have anything else, Rebecca, I think we can wrap
Yep.
up and
Yeah.
we'll follow up
Good.
with an email, and hopefully see you in the office soon. I know maybe our
I
days
know.
kind of like stagger. I'm not mad at, like, if I'm gonna be, I don't want it like a full office. I want like a medium full office
There
anyway.
you go.
So, but maybe we'll see you in the office soon and
Yeah.
can walk to Waltz together.
Yes.
For sure. And
Or the
food
food
trucks.
trucks.
Oh my
Food
gosh,
trucks.
it's gonna happen. Amy's got it planned.
Yes.
There we go.
All right.
All
Thanks. Good to
right,
see
thanks,
you.
Rebecca.
Bye.
Take care.
Yeah.